Looks just like her brother.
This is my daughter, Rue. We are over the moon with her. She's like the most little perfect little baby girl ever. And all of us are just so excited to become a family of 4, especially Arky. He has been wanting a sibling for so long. We've just had such a nice month soaking in the newborn bubble. Hi, honey. She is falling asleep right now and I wanted to film an intro to this video, so.
Come on, sweetie, let's go read some books.
You gonna read some books with Daddy?
Let's go read some books.
I love you. Okay, well, hello. It feels so good to be back on YouTube. I feel like I have really missed you guys. I took a nice break when I delivered. I'm gonna talk all about that in today's video, include some clips, and I'm just so happy. At this moment in my life, I feel like everything just makes sense. It's complete. We are, like I said, over the moon, and I missed you guys. I posted a little bit on Instagram and a little bit on TikTok, but I really have not posted anything on YouTube. And I have like a vlog of when I was near the end of my pregnancy that I have yet to edit because I went into labor very early, earlier than I thought. So still full term. She was 38 weeks on the dot. I was like 37 plus 6, like at night type thing when my water broke. So she was born at 38 weeks. It just happened so fast and it was not what I had expected, and I'm going to get into the whole story. But first, I just wanted to say thank you guys for being so patient with me. It's kind of weird when you are a creator or an artist or an actor or writer, whatever it is as your work, because you don't, or even an entrepreneur, you don't really get like the typical mat leave. Where I'm from in Canada, we get a year, which is really, really nice. I know a lot of you guys are not offered that. Most of my following is US based, so I've heard what the situation is like for a lot of you, and it honestly breaks my heart. But where I'm from, every single one of my friends that has like a typical job gets 1 year mat leave. I could apply for that if I wanted to, but I don't want to do that. I love what I do. I feel like it's nice to take breaks here and there, but really my soul just needs to be creative in some way, and I just love YouTube. It's just been something that I've loved to do for the past 10 years and it makes me so happy. So I definitely missed it. But like I said, it was nice to kind of just focus on my family and put all of my energy into being a mother to a newborn baby, doing that whole thing again. But guys, this experience is night and day from my first. If you've been following me since then, you know the struggles we had with my first, because it was right at the beginning of COVID, lockdown, curfew, the whole situation. My birth was traumatic. Like, it was just not a fun time. I had nothing to compare it to. So until I experienced a normal birth and postpartum, in a sense of we're not in a worldwide pandemic, and I resumed life normally, it has just been like my mood night and day. So let's start from the beginning, okay? I did not talk much about like my goals for birth and all that. I had mentioned a few times I wanted to try for VBAC, but I never really went into detail because I never really had any details. I wanted everything to be kind of up in the air. I felt like it would be nice to try for a VBAC, but at the end of the day, I was not opposed to a C-section if that's what needed to happen. Throughout my pregnancy, I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of scares. I've talked about this in multiple videos if you want to go back and see it. You can watch like my first trimester video and just the updates, my vlogs, all that. We also had gone through 2 years of infertility, did IVF, that didn't work. Had to get a surgery last summer to get my septum and my uterus removed. Then we were able to conceive naturally, which was on its own just such a shock. And then once that happened, I feel like I lived in constant fear of something happening to this baby that we had longed for so many months and so many years. We just wanted to complete our family. To be honest, we got to the point where we were just like, you know what? We are very content with one. We are so happy. We have such a good dynamic. Our life is very easy now. We kind of became okay with the fact that we would only have one, and that was okay. We felt extremely grateful for that. And then we got pregnant. My due date originally was July. Okay, this is what's confusing. According to my period, because I found out I was pregnant right before we left for Scotland. I got pregnant in October, and it was the first month we started trying, because I had the last surgery in September. Like, the main one was, this is confusing. The main one was in the summer. 6 weeks later, they went in and kind of got rid of the rest of the septum. I have a whole video series about this if you want to watch it, get more details. But we were cleared to start trying after I got my first period. So October rolled around, I had my first period, I ovulated, I tracked that, we got pregnant right away that first month. So I was a little concerned when I went to the doctor, because I was like, I just had this surgery, is it okay? She said, well, the doctor cleared you to try, it's totally fine. So we'll just keep an eye on things. I had the subchorionic hematoma, which could have been from, anyways, there was just a lot of anxieties. And I was told from the get-go I might deliver early, but you never know. And with my son, I delivered at 41+1. I had to get induced. It was a whole big thing. My body was not ready to go in labor. This time around, by like 33, 34 weeks, I was already starting to dilate and become effaced. And then as every appointment went on, because you start to see your OB every week at the end, I was progressing fast, and then I was also getting contractions. And I went into the hospital a few times actually, because I thought I was going into labor, and it would have been preterm labor, so I was very stressed and very nervous about that. I knew that, like, in my gut, I knew everything would be okay. I just wanted to keep her inside of me as long as I could. And I remember one of the last times I went into the birthing center, into triage, and they hooked me up to the monitor, did like another non-stress test, and I remember the doctor on call had told me, she's like, I think I'm gonna be seeing you again pretty soon. And I was like, oh my goodness. And at this point I was 36 weeks. And so I was like, okay, like, I know she'll be fine when she comes out. We'll do maybe like a week or two in the NICU. I was kind of preparing myself for that scenario. I had my hospital bag packed, everything was good to go. But my OB wanted me to do another ultrasound at 37 weeks, because she said she wanted them to check on the thickness of my scar from my C-section, just to double check and make sure everything was okay to go for a VBAC, because I had wanted a VBAC. We had scheduled a C-section for my due date, just, you know, in case, because they didn't want me to go past that. But she said, let's just check on the scar to make sure if you go into labor naturally that like it's thick enough, blah, blah, blah. So at 37 weeks, I go in for this ultrasound. I'm pretty sure I even filmed a TikTok for it, which I never uploaded the vlog because the news changed real fast in that ultrasound. I went in, the tech was checking around, everything looked good, baby looked good. She's like, oh, your scar is nice and thick, everything's awesome. And then she was focusing a lot at one section and she's like, hold on, I'm just gonna get the doctor for a second. And I was like, excuse me? No one wants to like hear something like that in that situation. So I immediately start panicking. The doctor comes in and he checks my belly and he's like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. They're kind of like chatting amongst each other and I'm like, excuse me, what's going on? And he was like, you had your septum removed, right? And I said, yeah. And he goes, okay, so your scar for your C-section is fine, but you do have some scarring up here where they removed the septum and I'm worried it's too thin. And he goes, it's tough because we can't see 100% since the scar for your C-section is lower than the baby, it's by your bladder, like we get a really clear image of it. But up here, because there's a baby in the way, it's really hard to see. He goes, but from what I can see, it looks quite thin. The issue with this is that if you do go into labor and you have those intense contractions, they come all the way from up here, right? Like your stomach pushes from up here. He says, I'm worried that you might have a rupture, a uterine rupture from up here, not the C-section scar. And so I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? He goes, well, I don't know how confident I feel with you having a VBAC, with you going into labor and being in active labor with those contractions. He goes, at the end of the day, it's your decision, like whatever you want to do. And I said, well, what do you really suggest? He goes, if you were my daughter, and he goes, I have 4 of them, I would really highly suggest a scheduled C-section. I said, okay, well, I have one scheduled for this time. He was like, no, like I wouldn't even go to 39 weeks. I was like, oh my God. Okay, so I kind of like, in that moment, I told myself, I want her safe. I want to be safe because I said, what happens if there's a uterine rupture? And he goes, this is a little bit graphic. I don't want to scare anyone, but this is just what he told me. He said the chances of a uterine rupture were high, and if I were to have that, then I would probably have internal bleeding. We can lose the baby, we can lose my life. It's like, it's a very scary situation. So when he said that, I kind of, in my mind, told myself, I don't care about a VBAC. I wasn't in a state of panic at that moment, but I was like, okay, let me go speak to my OB. I'm gonna get this, like, whatever, the form they give you afterwards. I forget the word, I can't think. And I walked across the street to my OB. I went straight up to the front desk. I didn't even wait my turn. And I was like, we need to change my scheduled C-section. And I told her the situation. She was like, okay, let's do this. She called the birthing unit. They got me in for July 2nd. So my due date originally, according to my period, was July 17th. And then all my ultrasounds, I was actually further along. So July 11th was my actual due date, and then they scheduled me in for July 2nd to get a C-section. So Dan and I decided not to tell anyone other than my parents and my sister-in-law, because I had planned to have my mom and my sister-in-law in the room with me when I was in labor, because like I said, we had planned to have a VBAC this whole time, and I was allowed to have 2 people, so I really wanted my mom and my sister-in-law. But because that wasn't happening, we told them about the scheduled C-section because we knew that I wasn't gonna be in labor. But I didn't want to tell anyone else in my life because I still wanted that aspect of surprise, like, hey, she's here, you know, because everyone was expecting me to have my scheduled C-section on my due date. And so that was really exciting. Oh, and I told my best friend, Catherine, because we had the same due date for the longest time, and then she was pushed back 2 days. Like, we were basically due at the same time, so everything we were experiencing together. It was really fun. So I remember being like, okay, this is not what I expected, but I'm actually super excited. I have someone in my life who's had 3 C-sections. The first one was emergency, the second 2 were scheduled. She was like, it's night and day, like, oh my gosh, it's amazing, you're not in labor, it's super quick, like you heal quicker, whatever. So I was very excited to know that, like, okay, this is the day that we're gonna have this baby. I could plan for it. There was an aspect of it that was actually quite nice, because I like to have things planned, and not knowing when the baby's gonna come kind of stresses me out. So I was like, you know what? I've had a C-section before. I know what it's like. I'm not gonna be in labor for 24 hours prior and like have an infection and a whole big thing. It's gonna be easy. Like I said, she decided to come early. So at 38 weeks, on the dot, 1 a.m. I wake up in the morning because I'm like, why am I peeing the bed? And then I realized, oh my gosh, I am not peeing the bed. My water just broke and I am gushing, and like movie moment, so much water. And I told Dad, I'm like, can you just check, am I peeing? Like, what's going on? He looked, he's like, oh no, your water broke. Let's head into the hospital. Because in my head, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to go into labor and like have a uterine rupture. Forgetting that like, it might not be fast, it might be a long process. Labor for me the first time was very long. So I get up out of bed, literally my water is still going, it's not like the trickle, it's like gushing. And I'm like, geez, how much fluid in me did I have? So I kind of panicked because I'm like, I had this whole call with the hospital telling me how to prep for the scheduled C-section. I was supposed to fast, I was supposed to wash with the special soap that I hadn't yet bought. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I haven't had anything yet. Like I don't own anything. I didn't buy that stuff yet. My call literally was yesterday. So I hopped in the shower and just like washed myself off with basic soap. And then I told Dad, I was like, obviously I'm not gonna eat. Luckily it was in the middle of the night, so I hadn't eaten anything since dinner. So we head to the hospital, obviously no traffic because in the morning we get to triage and get hooked up. Everything's good, baby's good, I'm good. I'm having contractions probably about every 30 minutes. Nothing too painful, but I could tell they're starting to like, anytime I would have a contraction, more fluid would come out of me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of getting painful.
Boo.
Hello.
So, what happened?
My water broke like the freaking movies. 38 weeks today. Was not ready at all.
We got such a good night's sleep last night.
We slept like an hour.
Like, man, an hour and a half, 2 hours
Because we
maybe.
broke at like 1. We went to bed late.
Not expecting that.
No, at all.
I mean, when you ever expecting it?
I mean, I went so far past with Archie.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that, you know? But,
You're feeling good?
yeah.
Baby's feeling good?
Yeah, I mean, she's doing fine. I'm just monitoring her.
Yeah.
Not even really contracting. It's more like, I mean,
Just
I'm having them.
gushing liquid.
I am having them, but it's not like, like when I was induced with Arkham and my water broke, it was like instant.
Yeah, right away. I remember rubbing you, like you were on that rocking chair.
And then it was like Pitocin made it liquid. Like now it's just like just my body naturally like going into labor, so it's so different. Like I have nothing to compare it to.
But we're gonna do the cesarean as soon as possible, probably at like 7:30 this morning.
Yeah, I never even explained to them that I'm doing a cesarean.
Oh.
So.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
Waiting for the C-section because her last scan they said that the top of your uterus where the surgery was too thin.
For my septum removal.
And they don't want to risk it rupturing. So it has to be cesarean this time, which I know is disappointing for you because you wanted to try to push, but...
You know what? I just want her here.
Well, that's it.
Healthy.
We don't want to risk either of you getting hurt. So.
Yeah, it's just funny because they had scheduled me for like a scheduled C-section
On Tuesday.
like 4 days from now,
Yeah.
and my water broke, and I was like, crap.
So it's 3:40 this morning. In the morning, we left our house at like 2.
Yeah.
They want to wait till like 7:30 so that she can do the surgery in the actual birthing unit instead of in general surgery, because then you and the baby would be separated from me and her. So just gotta wait a few hours. So it's almost 6:30. We're still unsure. Oh well, it's really dark. But we're still unsure if we're exactly gonna go at 7:30. But it's progressing, and Alex is doing a super job. You wanna hold my hand again? We're gonna meet her very soon. So we just got updated. It's still 11:15. Now it's 7:50. And we're booked in for roughly 11:30, depending how the first C-section of the morning goes, but
Want to see the chart?
doing good. They really should advance those machines to be paperless.
Taking a picture.
Well, think about how much paper that is. It's a lot of paper.
I did not sleep. I did not eat or drink because I'm not allowed. I'm so hungry and thirsty.
I think we slept like 2 minutes in these chairs.
For a second, I was like, wait, what? Yeah.
Both of us for like literally 2 seconds.
And
I
then
had like
a big contraction.
I had like a micro dream, and then you started grunting.
I was like, oh. They're
What?
not like bad though. They're not like active labor contractions. It's like
If
they're
all-
worse than what I was having.
If all things go well, today's her birthday.
Oh, 100% today's her birthday. No matter what.
Yes, actually, duh.
So.
June 27th.
Yeah,
I like
love you,
that.
baby girl.
I like it.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too.
I just remember feeling like, oh my gosh, I was not expecting this at all. Like, I did not think I would go into labor naturally. That never happened to me before. I'm nervous to meet her. I'm excited. There was a part of me that was scared because like a C-section is a C-section. They're cutting your abdomen open. It's scary. And like, I did not have a good postpartum experience last time. I didn't know what to expect. I was really hoping I wasn't gonna have an infection and like everything that happened the first time. I was scared, okay? So we get wheeled into the like, I guess it's the recovery room. Dan had to change into his scrubs. I had to change into my like gown and put this hat on. And I remember with Dan, I just was looking at him and I was like, are you excited to meet our daughter? And he was so pumped. And we were just joking and laughing. And then I'm like, my contractions are getting closer and closer together. So I was like, can we gotta move on? This is starting to hurt now. And then they're like, okay, we're prepped, we're ready for you. I basically walked into the OR. I walked in, everyone was like in such a good mood. They were chilling. They're like, what playlist do you want us to put on? They had music going. Everyone was chatty, laughing, like just, it felt like a party kind of. Like everyone's spirits were just so good. And I don't know, the vibe was so positive and just fun. So I was nervous. I got on the table and they're like, listen, they like hooked me up to like the IVs and stuff. And they're like, we're gonna give you the spinal and it's not gonna like last as long as an epidural. Like essentially the spinal is just like a one-time shot, whereas the epidural is a catheter that stays in where they can keep administering the medication. This is just like so they said, lie down quickly because you're gonna start to like lose feeling. And I remember when I was lying there, they were getting everything prepped. It was so fast in my memory. And I said, I could still feel everyone touching me. And they're like, that's normal. You're still gonna have feeling. You're just not gonna feel pain. And so they were putting is it called iodine? The stuff on your stomach before they like cut you. And they're like, do you feel cold? And I said, no. I'm like, okay, because cold and pain kind of go together. So if you don't feel cold, you're good. But it was weird because I could still feel, anyways, it's such an odd feeling. I don't remember feeling this last time. Maybe because I was so numb from the epidural and being on an epidural for like hours and hours. This one was kind of more like tingly pins and needles and I still felt just no pain, which is such a weird feeling. Anyways, then Dan walks in, he sits next to me with his gown and the hat and he grabs my hand and he's like, look at me, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And I could see it in his face, like the happiness.
Thank you. Are you ready?
I'm nervous.
You got this. You got this. You got it.
Alexandra,
Yeah?
we just tested.
Oh, I didn't
Feel
feel.
anything? So
No.
it's
Oh, good. Good.
For some reason in my memory, the birth of my son felt so long, maybe because I was alone, but this time I felt like you feel tugging kind of, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, Alex, you're gonna feel pressure on your stomach. That's just us just pushing the baby out. Because they were like, we're almost at her. And then they like pull her out and I just hear her crying instantly, which was such a like huge weight off my shoulders. And I had this big sigh of relief because like I said, my first time was just not like that. He wasn't crying right away. Like it was just kind of scary. This time it was like, I heard her crying and they're like, Dad, do you want to see? Stand up. And Dad's like, oh my God, wait. I'm like, I don't want to see anything other than the baby because, you know, when they cut you open. But they had like a sheet over it. So he looked and the first thing he says is, oh my God, she has such dark hair. I'm like, what? Anyways, they brought her over. He got to cut the umbilical cord. They weighed her. I'm just hearing her cry. I'm looking over. I'm like, oh my God, she's so cute. They put her on me. And what's so awesome about this hospital is there's this like woman there. I don't know what her job is, but it's to make sure that like the mom has her rights. So if they want skin to skin and if I want skin to skin the whole time, including recovery, the whole thing, I can. They like basically put her on me right away to start breastfeeding. I was like, whoa. I had that like the first time, obviously with my son, they put him on me skin to skin. But then when I went to recover, they put him with my husband, and my husband was like with my son for I guess an hour or however long it was while I was in the recovery room. Whereas this time around, they had her on me the whole time, and then also I was able to be with her in the recovery room with Dan. So it was like the three of us together, skin to skin, instant breastfeeding. Like it just felt a lot more natural that way. And because I wasn't super frozen, it wore off quickly, and I said I didn't want any pain meds. I wanted just like Tylenol, Advil. I don't know, I just felt like I didn't really have much other than the spinal. Like I didn't ask for anything, and I don't know if that's what played into me having a really good recovery. In the clouds, just so happy with my newborn baby, the one that I wished for 2 years, that I just didn't know. I never knew if I was ever gonna experience pregnancy and birth again, or the newborn phase. And I love my son more than anything in the world, like anything in the world. But I did not know what I was doing that first time around. I feel like everything gave me anxiety, which I know is very normal for first-time parents. And it was in a worldwide pandemic. So like on top of just being parents for the first time, it was very an isolating experience. I was very stressed about everything, every noise, grunt. I was like Googling everything. This time around, I just had this layer of confidence in me. It was like, I know what I'm doing. I've done this before. I wasn't overthinking everything. And I kind of went into this whole birth experience with an open mind, and also postpartum. I said from the get-go, like if breastfeeding doesn't work out, I'm not gonna push it. Like our son was also not a hard baby, but I feel like because I was so stressed, I didn't appreciate that newborn phase. And this time I'm really kind of soaking it in, because we don't know if this is gonna be our last one. It very well might be. I always envisioned myself with 2 kids. So happy. I had visitors come to the hospital right away. We had my parents, my sister, Arkham. I had aunts and uncles and cousins and Dan's family. Like everyone was just coming to visit, and it was the best feeling in the world. I know a lot of people are very open in the fact that they don't want to be around anyone at the beginning, and that is, I understand why. But for me, I didn't get that experience the first time. And I'm such a people person. Like I love to be surrounded by people that I love, and so does Dan. And we just knew going into this that we were gonna want visitors. Like, please come see us in the hospital, come to the house, come hold the baby, like be around us. And it just, seeing everyone be so happy, and I just felt like my mood was just like amazing. My whole life, I've always, even when I'm happy, there's a part of me that's always like waiting for the ball to drop or something to happen. But this time I just was fully in happiness, especially when my son came and sat with me as I was holding my daughter and Dan was right here, like the 4 of us together. That feeling that I had was like nothing else. I was like, I can live in this moment for the rest of my life. It is the most amazing feeling ever, and I never want to forget that. So I was only in the hospital for 2 days, which I think is normal for C-section. Went home. I think I'm gonna do a whole video on my postpartum experience, because there were a few things that have been a bit difficult for me, which I do want to go into detail of. But it's like, as a whole, it's just been such a positive experience. And without the little like hiccups here and there, I just feel like so happy. I'm so lucky to have the most amazing partner ever to do all this with, because Dan is just the most incredible father and husband. Like I just feel he's just so there for me and my feelings, and just making sure I'm okay. Don't get me wrong, guys, like we have our ups and downs, okay? We're a regular couple, sleep deprivation, like the whole, it's not like 100% rainbows and butterflies all the time, but I would say like 90% of the time, it's just incredible. And every morning I wake up and I'm like, I'm so happy. But I have to say, guys, postpartum hormones are wild, and there have just been some funny scenarios. So I'll probably include that in my next video. I wanted to do a vlog, and I think I'm just gonna chat through what my experience has been like postpartum the past 6 weeks, because it has been a wild ride, but still beautiful, because we've been out and about doing things, living life normally, seeing people. Like I was at my son's swimming lessons like the day after I got back from the hospital. because I was so excited. I love you guys so much. And I'm so excited for my upcoming content. I'm gonna talk a lot about like mom stuff, obviously because I'm in the thick of it, but I'm just gonna chat about life, I'm still gonna talk about fashion. I'm back on my like workout grind, so I'll talk about fitness as I do it. Very slow, by the way, very, very slow. But I did realize today during my bike ride that I feel still strong because I was so in shape before I got pregnant. I just don't want to push myself too much because like working out for me is such a mental thing. Like it helps me so much with my mental health, but I also don't want to injure myself, which then will make it harder for me to work out. Like it's a cycle. So taking things slow, I'll obviously chat about that. And there's just like really fun things in the works. Obviously having 2 kids is gonna be exciting. Like, there's just so much to catch you up on. So that will be the next video, but I love you guys so much and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.